All right, let's take a look at the next set of homework questions. So I need to solve the next few questions by using the quadratic formula. So once again, when we're solving and when we have a situation where it equals to 0, we're just looking for the x-intercepts or the roots. So x-intercepts and roots mean the same thing. If we're using the quadratic formula, we need to make sure that we understand the coefficients here, right? So the coefficients. So let's start off by writing that a would equal to 3. B would equal to, well, there's a positive 1 here. And make sure you have enough space here, and C equals to -5. So that's part 1 of the quadratic formula. You need to identify the coefficients there. After that, I would actually write out the quadratic formula, which is -b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, all divided by 2a. And then just plug in the numbers here, and x would equal to -b, which is -1, plus or minus the square root. Well, b squared is just 1 squared, so 1 squared is 1, minus 4 times the value of a, which is 3, and the value of c is -5, all divided by 2a. Alright, so a little bit long. It's very tedious to do these kind of problems here. So -1 plus or minus the square root of all this. Okay, so I have my 1 here, and if you go to your calculator, if you want to multiply all 3 of those numbers across, first of all, you should recognize that it will be a positive result because it's there's 2 negatives there. So 4 times 3 times 5 is going to give you 60. So 1 plus 60. And then after that, we just divide this by 2a. Oh, sorry, well, the value of a, I forgot here, is just 2 times 3, which is just 6, right? So 2 times 3, and 2 times 3 is going to be 6. Okay, so now we have x would equal to -1 plus or minus the square root of 61 divided by 6. All right, and since these are just difficult numbers, we could leave the answer like that, or another way we could write this is we can just split this up. So this would be -1 plus the square root of 61 divided by 6. That's one answer. And the other x-intercept could be -1 minus the square root of 61 divided by 6. And then we can leave our answers like that because we simply can't simplify this. Okay, so there you go. That's how you do the quadratic formula problem here. And throughout this video, we'll be solving these kind of questions over and over again by using the quadratic formula here. So anytime they tell you to use the quadratic formula, let's go ahead and identify the coefficients here. So your a value here is going to be 4. Your b value is also going to be 4. And your c value is going to be 1. Okay. After that, I would write out the quadratic formula, which is -b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, all divided by 2a. And then what we can do now is we can plug the numbers in here. So this will be -4 plus or minus the square root b squared, which is 4 squared, minus 4 times a, which is 4, and the value c is 1, all divided by 2 times 4, which is just 2 times 4. Okay, so a little bit more work to do with this particular question compared to the first problem that we did. All right, the square root, 4 squared is going to be 16. Minus 16 divided by 8. Okay, so this is looking nice here because we can definitely calculate, 16 minus 16 is going to be 0, and the square root of 0 is just going to be 0, so now it's going to be plus or minus 0 divided by 8. And it looks like we're only going to have one answer here, which is going to be -4 divided by 8, which is equal to -1/2. All right, so there's your answer. So I'm assuming this parabola, when we graph it, let me just kind of look, it opens up, so it's probably going to look like something like that. All right, so we have one x-intercept, which is -1/2. All right, so that's what we just found there. The -1/2 is just the x-intercept, or sometimes we call that the root for this particular course. Okay, let's move on to a few more of these quadratic formula questions, right? So you use the quadratic formula to determine the zeros for what the zeros are, and how many times does a graph cross the x-axis. Okay, not a problem at all. So our a value is going to be 2, our Our b value is going to be negative 25, and our c value is going to be 70. All right, so that's step number 1, finding the coefficients there. After that, you can write out the quadratic formula, which is negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, all divided by 2a. Alright, so let's go ahead and plug the numbers in here. So x equals, alright, so now I have a negative sign and a negative 25. So 2 negatives gives me a positive, so 25